As Franklin reaches his breaking point, he turns on everyone, or maybe everyone turns on him, depending on how you see it. However, his misfortune made him achieve the one thing he has been looking for in the drug business. Peaches' return also ties up one of the show's loose ends. This has to be among the series' hottest episodes, where things unexpectedly went badly so quickly. This is a breakdown of what went down in the series finale. Franklin's pager goes off, and he immediately calls back the number to hear the CIA threatening him to turn over Ruben or face life in prison. Franklin didn't waste any time thinking about it, and immediately went to get Ruben. Ruben kept begging Franklin not to deliver him to the CIA, and offered to help Franklin get out of the mess he found himself in. Franklin wasn't paying attention to whatever it was that Ruben was saying, and immediately packed Ruben in the trunk of his car and drove to the drop-off location provided by the CIA. As Franklin drags Ruben out of the trunk, the KGB operative begs Franklin not to trust the CIA and to save his life. The young saint ignores him, and Ruben is left in the hands of the federal government. The CIA agents immediately appeared at the drop-off location and picked up Ruben as soon as Franklin drove off. In the series finale of SNOWFALL, Franklin goes to great lengths to retrieve whatever bit of money he can from people around him. It's all in an attempt to recover from the $37 million loss that he experienced in Episode 9. His attempts to get money turn into a rampage tour in which he visits friends and family members to try and force them to give him money or not make him lose anymore. In his desperate search for money, Franklin goes to his best friend in the projects. Franklin asks Leon how much money he has, and Leon tells him he has $3 million. Franklin is immediately relieved by what he just heard from Leon, and he asks Leon to give him the whole money, promising to make Leon a partner in the Spring Street development property. He promised to pay back Leon once he is back on his feet, and he offered to pay back 5 to 10 times more of the value he received. But to Franklin's surprise, Leon immediately turned him down without even thinking about the offer, arguing that Sissy sacrificed her life to give Franklin something, and Leon wouldn't disrespect that by giving Franklin money. Leon believes that Sissy shot Teddy before he could make the transfer because she doesn't want Franklin to have access to the money, not because she was overcome by emotion from Teddy's remarks. Franklin, who is now full of anger and surprise from the response he received from Leon, tells Leon that he is the reason Leon even has the money. He threatened Leon, telling him to give him the money or he would take it. Leon's men immediately appeared behind Franklin, and Franklin immediately left after realizing that he was outnumbered. Wanda was scared that Franklin might come back later, but Leon assures her that Franklin won't come after him again. Her mind wasn't at rest, and she finally told him that she would just be leaving for Ghana. At first, he doesn't have any plans to follow her, not until he visits Sissy in prison, who convinces him to follow his wife to Ghana. One of the most beautiful parts of this finale came during the conversations between Leon and Sissy. Leon seems to be the only one who has some understanding of why Sissy shot Teddy and stopped him from transferring $37 million to Franklin. It's this understanding that's behind Leon's decision to not give Franklin money when he demands it from him. Sissy explains that one of her greatest tragedies in life was losing Franklin, but one of her greatest surprises was Leon. Sissy encourages him to go be with Wanda and to find out who he really wants to be in life so he can come back one day and properly atone for his mistakes. Another interesting turning point in the series finale is what unexpectedly transpired between Franklin and Veronique. At Sissy's home, Franklin is trying to regroup when real estate tycoon Paul Davis shows up, offering to buy Franklin out of the Spring Street development deal. Paul informs Franklin that Veronique reached out about the idea. Franklin quickly explains to Paul that he was misinformed and that he's not selling his stake. Franklin goes to confront Veronique about going behind his back. With his hands around Veronique's neck, he cautions her against ever taking such action again. He explains that Spring Street will continue to be funded, as he sold all the South Central properties to his mom's former boss. Veronique is not pleased with the news. Later, when Franklin goes to the bank to get a credit line and make a withdrawal, he learns that Veronique emptied most of the account shortly before his arrival, taking roughly $800,000 before leaving town. Franklin became more confused and frustrated, because now Veronique had taken all that was left. At her plea hearing, Sissy publicly pleaded guilty to the murder of a CIA agent and was remanded without bail until her sentencing. Visiting his mom behind bars, Franklin informs her he's working with his attorney to get the plea tossed. When he asks why she did all of this, Sissy doesn't say a word to him and walks away. Franklin returned for a second visit after Veronique screwed him over. He was a little bit more frustrated this time. He asks for his mom to sign over the ownership of her house so he can sell it. He reminds her that he technically owns the house since he was the one who bought it for her. She doesn't say a word to him again. Franklin got more frustrated by her attitude of silent treatment and became very disrespectful. He lost his temper and started shouting and throwing insults at his mom so that the security guards had to restrain him. During a meeting with Top Notch, Franklin is disappointed to hear that Veronique hasn't been found and that the private investigator is cutting ties with him. However, as a parting gift, Top Notch hands Franklin a file that gives Franklin some hope. Franklin drives to an unknown house outside of Los Angeles. He sneaks into the house carrying a gun and finds Peaches laying on the couch, apparently high on drugs. Peaches admits to having some money left in a safe and offers to get it for Franklin. As he goes to get off the couch, Peaches brings out a gun and takes a shot at Franklin, barely missing. Franklin shot and immediately killed Peaches. Panicking and walking through the house, Franklin stumbles across the safe, but he's unable to open it. He eventually calls a locksmith, who arrives to assist. A buddy of Peaches shows up in the middle of the process. When the friend leaves the room out of fear for Peaches, Franklin follows him and kills him, scaring the hell out of the locksmith. When Franklin returns, he holds a gun to the locksmith's head and demands he finish opening the safe. Once the box is opened, only $12,000 of the $5 million that Peaches stole is left. Franklin hysterically laughs and gives it all to the locksmith. The locksmith begged Franklin not to kill him, and he promised not to say a word to anybody about what happened. Franklin orders him to leave, but as the locksmith turns to leave, Franklin shoots him in the back. It's 2 years later, and Drug Enforcement Agent Tony Marino shows up at a remote farm looking for Louie. He tells the owners of the property that she is wanted as one of the largest distributors of cocaine in La and may have shown up using the alias Carla Huggins. Louie is hiding as she listens to the owners lie and say she was there last winter but has since moved on. Gustavo is back in the wrestling ring, except this time he's coaching. Once he dismisses the class, he calls the answering service he told Xiomara to use when they last spoke. Fortunately for him, she left a message for him, telling him that she and the boys are fine and have settled down in North Carolina. She apologizes for not previously contacting him, but jokes that her mom would have killed her. Xiomara concludes the message by saying she and the boys miss him and would love to see him if possible, leaving a smile on Gustavo's face. Gustavo seems to be the only one with a happy ending. Another year later, Leon returns to La from Ghana. He visits a very disheveled Franklin at Sissy's home, which now has an eviction notice tacked to the front door for unpaid taxes. As the two take a walk around the old neighborhood, Franklin asks about Wanda. Leon responds that it's a long story, but she's doing well and pursuing a music career. Leon then offers him a chance to join his new business venture, a free legal clinic. But instead, Franklin just wants money to buy a bottle of alcohol. Leon reluctantly gave the money, but Leon's face is full of sadness for the situation he finds his old friend in. Who could have guessed that the great kingpin would one day find himself in such a lowly and pitiful situation? Walking back to the house, they witness the police seizing Sissy's home. Leon wants to pay the tax debt, but Franklin refuses the offer and says he's free of everything, asserting that he doesn't need it back and wants to live free on his terms, free of material constraints.